Millionaire CEO's shocking discovery, 3 identical daughters hidden in plain sight revealed. Michael Reed stood on the balcony of his high-rise office, the Boston skyline shimmering like a mirage against the backdrop of his meticulously curated life. A tailored suit hugged his frame, signaling authority and solidifying his reputation as a formidable figure in the tech world. Yet, in his hand rested a crumpled letter, a harbinger of regret and buried truths. The bold letters written in shaky script cut deep, 3 daughters, identical and unfamiliar, living lives ripped from the fabric of his past. Had he truly risked everything for success, only to have his own family hidden away, unnoticed? As he gazed at the bustling streets below, the rush of pedestrians and the honking horns faded into an echo of memories, dreams of greatness marred by the stark reality of corporate warfare. The scandal looming over his company stirred a cocktail of anxiety. Allegations of misconduct threatened to dismantle everything he had built. But the letter revealed a different kind of turmoil, one with roots that ran deeper than boardroom decisions. How had he distanced himself so completely from the consequences of a long-forgotten romance? Would revealing his daughters mean risking the very empire that defined him? His thoughts twisted and turned like a tempest. Should he prioritize the integrity his father had always invoked, or cling to his meticulously constructed image? The unease inside him was suffocating. Each breath felt labored as he wrestled with the implications of the revelation. The memory of his father's words echoed in his mind, "Character is forged in the fires of responsibility." But what did responsibility mean in a world driven by profit margins and bottom lines? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The pulsating anxiety morphed into a storm of emotions, threatening to shatter his composed exterior. As the weight of his hidden family grew heavier, a sickening fear flared within him. What if his daughters blamed him for the life they led? Raised in Lancaster by a single mother who fought tooth and nail for their survival, had they become the grit that his upbringing demanded? In that moment, as a powerful storm brewed on the horizon, he felt the very foundations of his success shake beneath him. When he finally faced them, everything changed. Their laughter, their striking resemblance, was a sharp contrast to the image he had created in his mind. Joy battled with anguish as the situation spiraled into chaos. They were united, but against whom? As he looked into their eyes, he saw not just his past but a mirror reflecting his deepest fears. Would he be forced to choose between the very legacy he had built and the truth that might tear it down? With every second ticking louder than his racing heart, Michael Reed realized that the confrontation ahead would not only shatter his world, but also redefine what success truly meant. What price would he pay to uncover this family, fractured and yet yearning for connection? The uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud overhead, ready to unleash a torrent of revelation. Michael stepped away from the balcony, an electric tension coursing through him. His office, once a sanctuary of ambition, now felt like a gilded cage. He could hear the muted sounds of the city echo in the background, merging into an unsettling symphony of his racing thoughts. The crumpled letter burned a hole in his pocket, a constant reminder of the family he had abandoned. Deep down, a question gnawed at him: who had he become in the relentless pursuit of success? His mind darted back to his childhood, filled with the modest dreams his father had outlined in their quiet moments. "You must build a legacy, Michael," his father had always said, a mantra that had become the cornerstone of his life. But now, faced with the startling truth of his daughters, he wondered about the kind of legacy he was truly crafting. Would wealth and power endure, or would they crumble under the weight of unacknowledged responsibility? As he paced around the expansive office, adorned with accomplishments and accolades, every piece of art, every trophy echoed hollowly. They were symbolic of victories that now felt tainted. A portrait of confidence morphed into a stark contrast of loss. He needed clarity, a plan to confront his daughters, but more importantly, to confront himself. The days that followed were filled with restless nights and anxious days, each minute ticking like a time bomb. He orchestrated meetings and phone calls, trying to keep his world from spinning out of control while he fought to regain focus. The allegations against his company threatened to douse the flames of his success, his mind fixated not just on the financial implications, but the moral disarray lurking in the shadows. Yet as he scrolled through company emails, his thoughts invariably drifted toward the faces of the daughters he had yet to meet. The thought of their laughter, was it tinged with resentment? Did they resent the father who had been absent from their lives? Each image he conjured in his mind only deepened the chasm of dread that was now a part of his existence. That he was a man in search of resolution, yet each path forward appeared obscured by layers of unresolved guilt and regret. He couldn't help but feel that he had squandered the essence of what truly mattered, his connections with people, relationships that could have blossomed had he not been swept away in the currents of success. It was time for a reckoning, an exploration of what responsibility truly meant. A rare moment of calm fell over him one morning. He was sitting in a sleek conference room, preparing for a critical meeting with investors. For a brief second, he paused, looking at the cityscape through the glass wall. The sprawling skyline reflected his ambition, but it also mirrored his isolation. What impact would a meeting of investors have on the real battle he needed to fight, the battle for his heart and family? With newfound resolution, he stood, determination embedding itself within him. The time had come to face his daughters. He needed to understand who they were and what part he could play in their lives. He had a million excuses as to why he had stayed away, but now they felt invalid. A chance for redemption perched on the edge of his decisions. As he composed a text to connect with them, his fingers hovered over the keyboard. The weight of the moment culminated in a forced smile, the semblance of hope fighting against the familiarity of dread. But there was no turning back now. Would they accept him? Could he truly be welcomed into their lives despite the chasms of absence? The moment of truth loomed as he pressed send, the message shooting into the digital ether with his heart racing. As he waited for a response, he pondered what revelations might unfold. Would he find common ground with these unknown parts of himself, or would he face a mirrored version of his worst fears? A rising tide of anticipation swelled within him, carrying with it a promise of either reconciliation or further disparity. How would his daughters react to his outreach? The silence in the office was deafening after he sent the message. Michael dropped into the sleek leather chair, fingers tapping against the smooth surface in a jittery rhythm. His gaze flickered back to the skyline, now bathed in the golden hue of late afternoon sun, a stark reminder of everything he had strived for yet still felt incompletely linked to. What if they didn't respond? Just as his thoughts began to spiral, a vibration broke the stillness. His phone lit up, and the name Ella flashed across the screen. The rapidly beating rhythm of his heart spiked. She was reaching out. He opened the message, reading her words with growing apprehension. "Hey Dad, we should talk. Meet us at the park tomorrow." A mixture of dread and eagerness coiled in his stomach. Meet them at the park. The casual tone of her message suggested a placating calmness that belied the gravity of their situation. The park was a breathing space, a sanctuary for a conversation that could unravel or weave together the threads of their lives. He couldn't help but wonder, how little did they know him? And how much had they built without him? As the minutes crawled by, Michael abandoned attempts to concentrate on work. He threw himself into the realm of possibilities and what-ifs. At last, the day arrived. Standing before his closet, he battled his nerves as he chose a simple yet polished outfit, nothing extravagant, just the kind of man he wished to be in their eyes, while still echoing the man he had become. The park was vibrantly alive, filled with children's laughter and the earthy scent of grass and flowers. He caught sight of the trio before he identified them as his daughters. The resemblance was uncanny. They were gathered beneath an oak tree, sun filtering through leaves, casting playful shadows across their faces and revealing pieces of their unique personalities, a hint of curiosity, a dash of caution. Michael approached, heart racing like a freight train. As he stepped closer, Ella spotted him first. She offered a tentative smile, one filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Hi, Dad," she said, her voice steady despite the tension that lay bubbling beneath the surface. "Hi, Ella." His voice escaped in a barely audible whisper. The weight of the moment pressed down, rendering him momentarily speechless. His eyes darted to the other two, who mirrored expressions of guarded warmth. "Do you want to sit?" Ella nodded toward a nearby bench. "We've got a lot to sort out." The formality in her tone reminded Michael of the broader chasm stretching between them. There was more at stake than mere reconciliation. It was a chance to confront the legacy he had created or dismantled through his years of neglect. As they sat down, silence enveloped them, heavy with the gravity of unsaid words. To breach it felt daunting. But beneath that silence lay an uncharted territory where discovery awaited about guilt, their shared genetics, and perhaps glimpses into their intertwined lives. "Why now?" Ella spoke as if piercing through the veil he had crafted around himself. "We have questions." At that moment, Michael understood that this conversation would not merely be an exchange of apologies and reasonings. He was at the precipice of piercing through their fears and apprehensions, revealing a man who, beneath his shell, yearned for connection and understanding. His voice steadied, becoming more pronounced. "I know I failed you and your sisters," he began, quelling the tightness in his throat. "But I'm here now, and I want to change that." With every word, he felt the delicate threads of connection pulling tighter. The prospect of redemption rose above the shadows of doubt, igniting an ember of hope within him. Yet, the uncertainty hovered heavily. Would this genuine attempt be enough to weave their lives back together? As he spoke, he caught the faintest flicker of a shared moment in their expressions, a wary curiosity. Just then, a sudden thought struck him. What exactly did they know about him, and was his past truly as clear-cut as he believed? What skeletons awaited? Beneath the surface that may threaten the fragile bonds he sought to create, he needed to delve deeper, not just into their lives but also into the darker corners of his own. The truth could either bind them closer or tear them further apart, and as he wrestled with this realization, a promise echoed in his mind: he would embrace the complexity, uncover the hidden truths, and seek redemption through authenticity. Michael prepared himself, bracing for the truth. The moment they sought answers could either illuminate or ignite conflict. But what haunting revelations lay ahead as they peeled back the layers of their stories? The warm rays of the sun danced through the canopy of leaves, each movement seeming to reflect the conflicting emotions stirring inside Michael. He knew they wouldn't linger in ambiguity for long. His daughters needed clarity, and he desperately needed to unburden himself. Ella's gaze remained steady, a mixture of vulnerability and determination mirrored in her sister's eyes. They were waiting for more than just words of reassurance. They were searching for proof that he was committed to change, to becoming the father they deserved after years of absence. Guilt and hope collided within Michael, creating an internal maelstrom. "Okay," he breathed, cutting through the tension. "Let's start with where I went wrong." Even as he spoke, self-doubt nagged at him. How could he sum up years of neglect and mistakes in a few sentences? "I wasn't there. I chose work over family. You deserved better." The admission felt like a weight had been lifted, though it was quickly replaced with the weight of their expectant gazes. They were ready for answers, not just apologies. "And now?" Lila, the youngest, asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Now I want to be here," he replied, swallowing hard. "I want to learn about you, understand the lives you've built. I want to support you." Is that what he truly wanted? It sounded good in theory, but could he follow through? The thought of facing their past loomed like a dark cloud above. What happened to Mom? Ella's voice broke through his thoughts, sharp and unyielding. The question cut deeper than he anticipated, exposing wounds he had buried carefully over the years. "She was a part of my life I lost track of," Michael started hesitantly. "I thought I was providing for all of you, working hard to create a life that would ensure you were taken care of. And yet she didn't have you either," Ella stated, frustration imbued in her words. Michael flinched at the truth, but it propelled him forward. "Ella, I can't change the past. I can only try to change how I engage with you now." Was he being honest, or was this just a desperate attempt to salvage the fragment of a relationship he barely understood? But how do we know you'll stay? Amy interjected, her voice steady, piercing their fragile moment with a pointed query. His heart hammered in his chest, insecurity surfacing as he grappled with the implications of her words. I suppose I have to earn that, Michael replied, feeling suddenly small beneath their scrutiny. But I'm willing to work for it. They exchanged glances rich with uncommunicated words, and moments stretched painfully as Michael wondered if they could feel the flicker of sincerity behind his eyes. Let us start anew. Each of us, he suggested, desperation tinged with hope. Let us get to know one another. We can even have fun doing it. A small smile flickered across Ella's face as the tension began to soften. Fun? Lila asked skeptically, raising an eyebrow. What do you have in mind? Maybe an outing? Something we all can enjoy. I could show you my city. There's a lot more to me than just the office. As his mind whirred, he realized the setbacks he faced weren't just external, they were internal, too. The residual scars from his past decisions weighed heavily. He had always been a planner, a strategist, but with them, all calculations felt futile. Genuine connection demanded vulnerability in ways spreadsheets could never quantify. What if we try understanding each other through something we all enjoy? He proposed, tapping into the memory of long-forgotten traditions. How about a picnic next weekend? We can talk, laugh, and he hesitated, apprehensive at the shift from formality to intimacy. Just be us. Surprise flickered across their faces, but to Michael, it felt like a gentle breeze of tentative acceptance. Perhaps this could be the first step toward mending fences, but the danger was clear. Was he equipped to navigate emotions he'd long buried? They exchanged glances, a collective uncertainty laced with emerging curiosity. I think we can try, Ella said slowly, her words a cautious blend of hope and skepticism. Michael felt a surge of warmth. It was not much, but it was more than he had expected. A crack in the wall of silence that had separated them. Yet, was this a true beginning, or just an illusion hiding deeper complexities? As they stood up, ready to leave the park, Michael realized that the path back to each other would not be straightforward. There were conversations yet to be had, truths to unearth, and his own understanding of self that challenged him at every turn. Could he face the ghosts of his past, or would they haunt him as he tried to create something new? With more questions than answers, they walked away together, uncertainty hanging in the air like a thick fog, but for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of possibility. What ghosts remained hidden beneath the surface of their shared stories would soon reveal themselves, and Michael braced himself for the confrontation that awaited him. The week leading up to the picnic felt suffocating for Michael. Each passing day echoed with his daughter's questions, challenging him to confront his past while desperately wanting to pivot toward a hopeful future. Every interaction felt loaded, he worried about saying too much or too little. The specter of disappointment loomed, heightening his desire to make this outing perfect. His mind wrestled with internal debates every night. How could he genuinely connect and not retreat behind the walls he had built over the years? He recalled the countless meetings he had led, the crisp financial reports he had reveled in, and the accolades given for his business acumen. Yet, here he was, feeling like a novice confronting an intricate, emotional puzzle, one that didn't feature easy solutions or clear metrics for success. The day arrived with a bright sun casting light on the pier where they had agreed to meet. It was a contrast to the storm brewing in his heart. He arrived early, hoping to settle the flutter of nerves that had curled into his stomach. As he stared out at the calm water, he wondered if he could foster connection through shared experiences, or would it crumble under the weight of their unacknowledged history. Ella was the first to arrive, her effortless stride quickly replacing apprehension with timid excitement. Hey, Dad, she greeted, her voice steady, yet holding an edge of uncertainty. Hey, he replied, forcing a smile while mentally grappling with how to ease the tension between them. In the moments that followed, he attempted light conversation, asking her about her classes and interests. Ella responded with a mixture of enthusiasm and caution, revealing a glimpse of her world, but there remained a thick barrier where deeper topics lay tucked away. Lila and Amy appeared shortly, their demeanor reflecting the same blend of cautious optimism mixed with threads of skepticism. As they gathered at a picnic table laden with simple food sandwiches, fruit, and a few homemade desserts, Michael felt the weight of his self-imposed pressure. "Okay, this was your idea, what's first?" Amy asked, offering him an opening yet scrutinizing his intent with sharp eyes, as if she were unearthing hidden motives behind his cheerful facade. Michael's palms felt clammy, a surge of anxiety washing over him. "I thought we could play some games. You know, like charades." The words felt awkward in his mouth, sounding more foolish with caught breath. He could see the skepticism etched on their faces. Ella's brows furrowed. "Charades? Really? Just hear me out, it's about more than just acting. It's about understanding each other, without the stress of deeper topics," he offered, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. "Games break the ice, allow for laughter, and maybe make room for more serious conversations down the line." The air hung heavy as the sisters exchanged glances, each pondering the risk of rejection or acceptance. Eventually, Lila shrugged. "What's the worst that could happen?" As laughter began to fill the space, Michael felt a warmth spreading through him, an unexpected pride blossoming at the sight of his daughters engaging in youthful competition. This wasn't just about games, it was an opportunity, the first step toward dismantling the barriers he had erected for years, but even as the laughter rolled on, droplets of unavoidable reality seeped back into his consciousness. The burdens of his past, every missed birthday or unspoken words, lingered almost palpably. Would this moment be enough to build any kind of lasting trust? As the sun sank lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Michael felt an internal shift. For the first time, he allowed himself to linger in the discomfort of connection where pleasure twisted around vulnerability, making the possibility of further engagement feel tangible. "Can I ask you all something?" he said, catching their attention. Their laughter subdued, curiosity replacing it. "What do each of you wish I would change?" Silence fell upon the group, the gravity of his question lingering in the air. He could feel the weight of their stares, each waiting for the moment to respond, each grappling with their truths as they prepared to plunge into deeper waters. Michael held his breath in anticipation. Would they guide him toward the clarity he sought, or would the fragile momentum built in their shared laughter shatter under the strain of honest confrontation? He braced himself, aware that he was caught in a web of uncertainty as thick as the dusk settling around them. The moment of clarity was near, but would he be ready for the truths unveiled? The silence weighed heavily, each second stretching into an eternity as his daughters digested his question. Michael's heart raced, and he could feel the pulse pounding in his ears. Their expressions ranged from confusion to contemplation, each sister caught in her own mental labyrinth. He had anticipated discomfort, but the knot in his stomach tightened ominously. Lila was the first to break the tension. "Well, for starters, it would be nice to have you around more often." Her words, though straightforward, struck Michael like a hammer. He was accustomed to gathering feedback from colleagues and superiors, navigating an environment where feedback was stripped of emotion. Yet here, in this raw and unfiltered moment, he felt exposed. "I know," he stammered, uncomfortable yet determined to acknowledge her pain. "I regret that." The admission tasted bitter, but it was a truth he had to own. "Regret doesn't change anything," Amy interjected, her tone sharp yet layered with vulnerability. "You can't just show up when it's convenient." It was a direct hit. Each syllable carried the weight of years of disappointment. Michael's mind spiraled. How could he defend himself without sounding defensive? He could see their eyes searching, scrutinizing. Each of them hungered for reassurance, yet he had given them so little. "Okay, let's try to keep this constructive," Ella proposed, her voice serene, a contrast to her sister's charged feelings. "We need to talk about this in a way that moves us forward." Forward. The word echoed in Michael's consciousness like a bell tolling in a quiet church. This was what he had been striving for, yet he felt unprepared for the conversation and the raw honesty it required. How could he forge ahead when the past felt so encompassing? In the moment of hesitation, He recalled his years as a CEO, how he had thrived in high-stakes negotiations and thrived under pressure. But this? This was a different kind of battle, one fought not with data and figures, but with emotions laid bare. "What do you need from me?" he finally asked, desperation tinged with hope. "Show me how I can change." Ella leaned in, eyes focused. "We need to see you trying, not just hearing the words. Show up. Be present. If you say you can be there, then you need to actually be there." Her words stung deeper than he expected. They challenged him to lessen the gap between what he preached in the boardroom and how he lived at home. Was he willing to dismantle the illusions he had clung to? "Trust can't just be regained through promises," Lila emphasized. "You have to earn it back, day by day." Their vulnerability ignited a fire within him, one that shifted from self-absorption to the realization of responsibility. Here was the essence of true leadership, not in the assertiveness he had wielded in his career, but in humility and accountability in his personal life. In this moment, clarity washed over Michael like a cleansing rain. Their honesty was both refreshing and terrifying, revealing a framework upon which he could build authentic relationships with his daughters. "I'm willing to try. I'll start by being there at least once a week. He paused. "I'll figure out a way to stay connected." His heart surged with an unfamiliar combination of fear and empowerment. The path was gleaming yet rutted, filled with uncertainty, but for the first time, he felt momentum pulling him forward. Their gazes softened as they absorbed his commitment, the walls beginning to unspool, if only slightly. The laughter that had reverberated before seemed to flicker, awaiting the next chapter that would be written together, but the journey had only just begun. Would he be capable of maintaining this commitment amid the chaos of life? As sundown painted shadows across the pier, a new question emerged in Michael's consciousness. What would he do when faced with the inevitable challenges his past had woven into his present? The time had come for Michael to confront not only his past actions but also the new terrain of fatherhood he was navigating. The bar had been set now, it was up to him to rise to the occasion, to truly unlock the potential of the relationships before him. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft golden sheen over Michael's surroundings as he stood on the pier, hope mingled with uncertainty. His daughter's words echoed in his mind, as though etched in the fading light. He needed to shift his mindset, to reframe his approach to both fatherhood and self-awareness. Each week, he promised, a tangible commitment. But would that be enough? A week was a fleeting period, too short to heal the deep rifts forged over years of neglect. He felt a trapdoor open within him, revealing a fear he hadn't fully acknowledged, the fear of intimacy, of being known, and possibly, of being unworthy in their eyes. This internal struggle coupled with the weight of their expectations created an unease that sat heavy in his stomach. Michael began to plan for his first visit, determined to make this commitment matter. He scoured through memories of their childhood, shuffling through images of birthday parties and school recitals, the things he had missed. He aimed to forge connections that were missing, setting a tentative map for the journey ahead. A dinner, perhaps, one cooked by him, an act so simple yet layered with significance in his mind. But as he envisioned it, the pressure to impress bubbled to the surface. What if they didn't like what he prepared? What if they found him pathetic? Each question churned until he pushed them aside, internalizing the mantra he had recited countless times in board meetings: focus on the process, not just the outcome. He devised a menu, selecting a few simple dishes, willing to make mistakes if it meant reaching them. As the days passed, he began to cultivate sincerity in other areas too, from his relationships with close friends to his colleagues. He attempted to abandon the mask of a polished CEO and engage authentically, sharing more than just the surface-level interactions he had once thrived on. This practice felt foreign, as if he were peeling layers off an ancient mural nobody had appreciated before, the mural of his own vulnerability. However, the moment for action arrived sooner than he anticipated. On his designated day with his daughters, unease crept in, suffocating any bravado. At the table, Lila, Amy, and Ella exchanged uncertain glances, their body language illustrating a mixture of hope and skepticism. "Dad, are you really serious about this?" Lila asked, biting her lip nervously. I'm serious, Lila, he replied, the conviction in his voice trembling slightly. I want to make up for lost time. Their eyes bore into him, searching for the assurance that had often been absent in the past. It struck him then this was not merely about him, nor about cooking a meal or spending an afternoon together. This was about breaking toxic cycles and creating a new landscape of trust. As they conversed over dinner, Michael found himself grappling with moments of silence, his own insecurities surfacing amid laughter and shared stories. The dishes he cooked, though simple, served as more than just a meal. They were a bridge, a quiet testament to his desire to be involved, cooking through the years of emotional neglect. But the pain of his past hung in the air like an uninvited specter. When conversation turned toward the future and their dreams, Michael felt the ghost of self-doubt tighten its grip. What if I let you down again? He seized the moment of vulnerability, an urge emerging to own the reality of his past failures. Ella spoke then, her voice steady yet probing. You need to want to change more than we need you to change, Dad. It's not enough to just show up. Their words fired a new determination within him, a challenge he had not anticipated. How could he ensure this was more than a fleeting effort? The stakes had risen higher than he imagined. This was no longer about navigating the complexities of fatherhood, this was about redefining his essence. Michael realized that commitment would require him to confront not just the past, but also the expectations of himself that surrounded what it meant to be a father. As the conversation deepened and vulnerabilities blossomed, a revelation dawned within him he needed to address not only his daughters, but also himself. The night ended with laughter, yet shadows loomed over the table as Michael sensed the fragility of the moment. Despite the connection forming, uncertainty lingered like the last remnants of light before total darkness set in. What would happen when the novelty of change wore off, and old habits threatened to re-emerge? The tumultuous path ahead sparked new questions. Could he truly maintain this momentum and reconcile with himself while embodying the father he desperately wanted to be? The journey towards rebuilding trust would test not only his resolve but the authenticity of his commitment. Michael stepped into his home office the next day, a place that had always been a fortress of solitude and work. The walls bore witness to the countless hours he had poured into spreadsheets, strategies, and meetings. Yet today, they felt more like a cage, stifling, constricting. The scent of burnt garlic from the previous night's dinner clung to the air, a reminder of the tentative steps he had taken towards rebuilding relationships that he plopped down at his desk, determined to capture the momentum from the night before. A vision danced in his head, a plan not just for further dinners, but for activities that would build connection through shared experiences. He could not let his daughters down again. But what would he choose? Fishing, hiking, or maybe a visit to the local art gallery? Each option felt heavy with the weight of his past failures. He questioned his knowledge of their interests. Did they even like fishing? How could he gauge this without appearing invasive and awkward? The idea of missteps, of fumbling through another interaction, hung ominously above him. With every blurred outline of potential activities, a nagging internal voice surged, echoing Ella's earlier words. It wasn't enough to simply show up. He needed to be engaged, emotionally invested. He could no longer afford to act as merely their father on paper. This notion brought him back to a pivotal truth: he had to unveil his authentic self, to step away from the carefully curated persona of the unflappable CEO, and delve into vulnerability. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. What do you genuinely want? Michael directed the question not at his daughters, but at himself. It was a revolutionary notion. The very act of answering would require him to confront his intrinsic desire for approval, a longing that had driven his career but had kept him isolated from his family. Digging deeper, Michael began to flesh out a list of activities that would allow for conversations slower paced, intimate moments away from the bustling restaurant scene. He scribbled down ideas for breakfasts instead of dinners, board games instead of hikes. Coffee brewed at their familiar cafe or volunteering together at a food bank seemed perfect neutral grounds where expectations could unravel into shared laughter. Yet another layer of fear crept in as he considered how each of these experiences would raise the stakes. If he stumbled verbally, if he misjudged their comfort levels, would they invalidate him yet again? He shook his head, dispelling the self-doubt. Encouragement from his daughters reminded him of the power of vulnerability to heal, both for himself and them. Taking a deep breath, he crafted a text to Lila: "How about breakfast this Saturday? I want to hear your thoughts about what you love doing. It'll be a time for us to catch up." This simplicity struck him as significant, an invitation that rooted in openness and honesty, qualities he had long shunned in his corporate life. Before sending it, he hesitated. What if she misinterpreted it as a gesture to fulfill a duty instead of an invitation to explore new territory together? Would it come off as too formal? But the irrational worry dissipated. He was not asking for their approval, he was creating an opportunity to connect. Lila's quick thumbs-up emoji appeared almost as soon as he sent the message, sparking a flicker of hope in his chest. He leaned back in his chair, contemplating the next steps. This interaction was pivotal, but it was only the first among many. With every meeting, every conversation, he needed to sustain his inner willingness to be vulnerable. He could no longer compartmentalize his emotions, he had to embrace them as part of the transformational journey ahead. Yet as the clock ticked toward Saturday, a twisting unease accompanied him. This newfound resolve was exhilarating, but clearly, change would not come easy. His mind buzzed with lingering doubts about the future of these newfound connections. What if this was another fleeting attempt that would not endure the crucible of daily life? And what of the shadows from his past? Would they truly stay buried, or would they emerge to threaten everything he was building? The clock ticked relentlessly, and anticipation swirled like a storm, darkening the prospects of what lay ahead. Michael awoke Saturday morning charged with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The plan he had crafted in the silence of his home office was now simmering in the air, waiting for the chance to materialize. Breaching the gulf that had formed over the years was no small feat, yet he understood this was merely a beginning. The breakfast would serve as both a catalyst and a test. If today proved fruitful, perhaps he could unravel the tangled threads of their estranged relationship. Dressing in casual attire felt oddly liberating. Gone was the tailored suit that had always felt like armor. Today's jeans and a simple flannel radiated a familiarity that echoed intimacy over authority. A small shift, perhaps, but it conveyed a subtle intention. This meeting would be anchored in authenticity rather than pretense. As he pulled into the cafe's parking lot, he felt the familiar knot in his stomach tighten. Self-doubt gnawed at him, demanding attention like a persistent child. What if this turned into another stilted encounter? What if he couldn't find the right words? The incessant ticking of the clock echoed his sense of urgency. His phone vibrated, drawing his attention to a message from Lila. "Can't wait. Just finished a shift at the bakery and I'm starving. Hope you're ready for lots of questions." Her enthusiasm quelled some of his worries, revealing a glimmer of hope beneath his anxiety. Maybe he wouldn't just be the man responsible for their past failures, he could take ownership of this moment and create something meaningful. Stepping inside the cafe, the hum of chatter surrounded him like a warm embrace. He spotted Lila seated at a corner table, her blue eyes sparking with lively energy. She clutched a steaming cup of coffee and smiled brightly as he approached. It struck him how much he had missed these genuine interactions. "Hey, Dad. You should be seen how we experimented with flavors at the bakery. I think I nailed the chocolate croissant," she exclaimed, her excitement palpable. This was new territory. She seemed genuinely eager to share her life with him, and that alone encouraged him to lean in. "Sounds amazing. I can't wait to try it," he replied, feeling a spark of joy for the first time in a long while. The conversation flowed with a natural rhythm. Lila talked about her friends, her dreams, and even her fears. Each moment peeled away layers of apprehension, revealing a woman who was vibrant and searching for connection, not judgment. Michael found himself reflecting deeply on his own experiences as he spoke, revealing more than he intended. His stories, once laced with professional bravado, shifted into personal anecdotes. He hesitated but then pushed past the discomfort. "Sometimes, I wonder if I made the right choices in my career," he admitted. "I sacrificed so much for success that I lost sight of what really mattered." Lila's eyes sparkled with understanding. I get that, Dad. It's hard to balance everything. I just want you to know I never wanted anything other than to have you around." In that moment, a wave of vulnerability washed over him, compelling him to forge deeper bonds. It became evident that they were both seeking a connection, a bridge to rebuild what had been shattered, but just as the atmosphere lightened, a persistent thought flickered in the back of his mind. Could he truly sustain this new openness? The fears that once lingered beneath the surface threatened to resurface. Would sharing these intimate revelations showcase his strength or expose his vulnerabilities? Could he be candid about the realities of his struggles over the past years while simultaneously protecting those he loved? As he wrestled with these questions, he noticed Lila watching him closely. Would she see through him, detecting the storm brewing beneath his composed facade? The journey had begun, yet an unsettling truth loomed: every connection forged could just as easily unravel the threads of progress. With every layer peeled back, Michael felt both hopeful and terrified. This breakfast might just forge new beginnings, but what awaited him? In the end, would the past continue to cast its shadow, or was there a possibility for bright horizons ahead? He breathed deeply, steeling himself for the conversation that lay ahead. The time had come to truly face the future with his daughter, whatever it may hold. Yet in the recesses of his mind, a faint echo remained. What if the biggest challenge he had to confront was not merely accepting vulnerability, but also recognizing the full weight of the unresolved discord that lingered in the background? As Michael sat across from Lila, the warmth of the cafe felt almost suffocating with the pressure to perform, to shape a narrative of redemption. He could sense the importance of this moment, both a test and an opportunity to rebuild the trust that had eluded him for years. "I'm really proud of you for working at the bakery," he said, the sincerity in his voice surprising even him. "It sounds like you're learning so much." Lila beamed, her enthusiasm evident, but a shadow crossed her features. "It's a lot of hard work, Dad. But at the end of the day, it's about the people we serve." Her honesty cut through his corporate instincts, striking a chord that reverberated through their conversation. As they delved deeper, Lila's casual queries about his life turned into profound discussions about choices, purpose, and expectation. Every laugh they shared, every mutual revelation felt like a thread weaving a new tapestry, one filled with warmth and honesty. "Sometimes I wonder if I've made a mess of things," he confessed. The atmosphere grew charged as he let down his guard. "Is there a way to fix this? To undo what has been done?" "Maybe it's not about fixing everything," Lila replied thoughtfully, stirring her coffee. "Maybe it's just about being here now, together." Her words landed like a bomb, igniting hope within him. Could they really be moving past the years of distance and hurt? The conversation flowed into the sharing of memories: her first painting, his ridiculous attempts at baking, laughter blending with nostalgia. For the first time, he felt the walls he had erected around himself begin to crumble, replaced by a burgeoning sense of connection. But as they settled into their rhythm, a pang of reality struck. What lay ahead was yet uncharted territory, one with unknown challenges. Self-awareness became an anchor in this blooming relationship, guiding him toward transformation. "Lila," he said bravely, "I want you to hold me accountable. If I slip into old habits, call me out on it. I can't afford to disappoint you again." Her eyes widened for a moment, then softened with understanding. "I can do that, Dad. But you have to meet me halfway too." With her encouragement guiding him, Michael embarked on a new chapter. He started implementing weekly breakfasts, hoping to cultivate the rhythm of connection into reality, each meal a new opportunity to embrace vulnerability, share laughter, and face the underlying tensions that had long disrupted their bond. Every week brought a new adventure. They explored local parks, discovered shared interests in art, and even tried volunteering together at a food bank. Each smile and shared experience further solidified the connections they were forging. Michael felt as though he was integrating the missing pieces of himself with the love and dreams of his daughters. As the weeks turned into months, Michael's commitment grew clearer. The time spent with Lila expanded to encompass Ella and Amy, each daughter bringing unique facets of joy and understanding to their interactions. They were healing, but the journey required consistent effort, a steadfast resolve to stay present amidst the chaos of life. One Saturday afternoon, during a picnic in the park, Michael broke open a conversation that had been lingering in his mind. "What do you think about wanting me to be your father? What would that mean to you?" Ella, gauging the depth of his inquiry, responded cautiously. "Dad, we want you to be our father not just in title, but in action. You can't just show up at special occasions like holidays. It's about being there in the day-to-day." Instinctively, Michael understood her urgency. "Trust is built in those moments, isn't it?" He replied, awareness dawning. "You have to be here, living this, not just drafting more business plans," Lila added, her eyes reflective. Their words sparked something profound within him. This was what true success meant, not the accolades and wealth, but the ability to cultivate meaningful relationships. He had been a master of business, yet a novice in fatherhood. Reform was a steady choice. With every event he organized, every heartfelt apology given, each spontaneous gathering, he became more integrated and less guarded. The hard-earned success of his career now served a purpose beyond profit. It was about steering his path authentically, fostering relationships with integrity. One evening, in a quiet moment of contemplation, Michael found himself gazing at the Boston skyline. This city, which had once represented ambition, now stood as a backdrop of healing stories and connections. His daughters were by his side, laughing, sharing their dreams, a scene that blossomed vividly in his memory. With clarity, Michael celebrated his growth. It wasn't merely about being forgiven or achieving fatherhood, but about living each moment with intention. His identity had transformed into one deeply intertwined with authenticity, collaborating in the lives of those he valued most. Sitting there together, he turned to them with gratitude in his heart. "Thank you for giving me this opportunity, for trusting me to change," he said, realization punctuating his words. "I am learning how to be present, and I will fight to hold on to that." A breeze stirred gently around them, whispering promises of new dawns ahead. Michael understood there would be more conversations, challenges, and moments to overcome. But for the first time in his life, he felt not just equipped but eager to face them, not as a title or an identity, but as the engaged father he longed to be. Every seeds of struggle had finally bloomed into profound connection. As their laughter mingled with the wind, Michael realized he had achieved the transformation he sought, now a father ready to embrace vulnerability with grace, trust, and love. This was the moment he had fought for, a journey of profound fulfillment where he could finally say, "I am home." Now, friends, it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our exclusive emotional stories that inspire growth. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our mission to share these powerful narratives. Comment your thoughts and theories about Michael's journey and share what you hope to see next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Real growth is only made possible with your support, so let us keep this community thriving.